They, I mean, maybe not at that time.
Wait, please don't tell me Nathan and Destiny share the same internet. There's no shot, right? Dude. Yeah, there's no shot they share the same internet. Like, he's just, like, cutting in and out and, like, just typically having unstable, like, fucking connection, no? It's not me, by the way, and it's not Drew
He's
either.
dropped
It's
out again.
just, his internet is just genuinely bad. Destiny's in the other room bailing Nathan out with cutting the internet. I'm pretty sure he's like, he's probably doing COVID research in the other room. Oh god. No, Nathan lives in Nebraska, right? With his mom. Nathan lives with his mom. Oh, okay. That
Nathan, are you
explains it.
there?
Oh, he probably doesn't use like fucking router. He probably doesn't have like connected router internet, right?
Nathan, are you there? Hello.
Fuck. Like this seems like internet, not Ethernet, right? If that makes sense.
Okay, you're back. You're back.
Okay. Anyways,
So
like I was saying,
for example, when
okay.
there were Jews who escaped from Auschwitz, it was a very rare occurrence, and they brought the plans of what the Germans were doing to the Hungarian Jews to the Allies, and the Allies could have bombed the transports to stop the mass transport of Hungarian Jews, hundreds of thousands of Hungarian Jews to Auschwitz, who were to be exterminated, and the Allies didn't do that. So you're saying that
they sometimes did actually. They did sometimes bomb transports. There's examples. I think around 1942, Americans started bombing these railroads, along with other bombings near where the old German Polish border was to cut off transportation of Nazis to the Eastern Front. They also bombed railroads going to concentration camps.
It's a vanilla.
Just a drink. A martini, shaken, not stirred.
It's a vanilla thing to deny a genocide once in a while, lol.
It's also a leftist thing to completely and utterly deny the Bosnian genocide, downplay the Holodomor, okay? Divert and take attention away from the Uyghur genocide. I'm assuming there's an anti-fan comment, okay? If it's not an anti-fan comment, I get the joke, okay? Thank you. Thank you for the $5 anyway, okay? Yeah.
They killed some Jewish people as they were being transported. The reason that we're not taught this is because America knows this is them killing innocent people and then blaming it on another country. That's why we're not really taught the fact that America bombed some of these transports with Jews being transported at the same time.
I want to clarify here, Nathan. You admitted that the Nazis scapegoated the Jews after World War I. You admit that they used them for slave labor. You admit that they were persecuted. You admit that they killed many of them. You admit that people who couldn't work in these camps were killed. So why do you still support them? This is the big question.
What is that? What's going on?
Okay.
So this is the question. So this is the question.
No, I heard you. The reason why I overall support them is it's not about the slave labor and stuff like that. And hold on, let me real quick.
Is a little jokey joke not anti-fan shit? Oh, okay. Sorry, I've just been I just been beefing, okay? Been beefing with a bunch of Destiny anti-fans recently, okay? Alright. My bad.
Taking Germany as an example and then making it seem like it's one of the worst examples in history. Almost every other country was also using slave labor. To say that Germany is evil for using slave labor, and
in the 1930s and 1940s. In the 1940s, mate, slavery was abolished 100 years plus before. The British
they were using slave labor in Africa. They did enslave Africans and force them to make things.
Huh?
The British banned slavery at the start of the 19th century. America obviously banned slavery after the Civil War. You're talking about slavery being practiced by the Germans in the 30s and in the 1940s, in 1944, 1945. Right at the height of World War II, they're using millions of people as slave laborers. I've got a Polish friend, for example.
No, is he doing the notepad thing, guys? Is Nathan doing the notepad thing? No.
Friend whose grandfather was a slave laborer in Nazi Germany.
Why?
So this is the question. Why is this acceptable? Why is this? I mean, all you've got is just basically whataboutism to say, oh well, other countries used slave labor, therefore Nazi
It's
Germany can use slave labor in
ChatGPT.
1944 and
Who
1945.
knows?
That's crazy. That's not an argument for slavery. That's not an argument defending the Nazis. It's just whataboutism.
Oh, Nathan won, I guess. I don't know. He's in ChatGPT.
Is he cut out again? Internet.
This is frustrating. A little bit, maybe.
Oh, hang on. Oh, it's back in the.
Yeah,
Are you there, Nathan? So you're there.
it'd be on my PC because that
There's
it's
slavery in
just
Yemen
better.
today. Mhm.
My PC.
Isn't there also slavery in Somalia? Where Krontos is?
Okay. All right.
Okay, so here's my response to that. Yes, British did use forced labor. It wasn't as bad as the Atlantic slave trade. But yes, there are examples during World War II of France and Britain using forced slave labor. Near Central Africa, the British used forced slave labor. Then also in East Africa.
If you're a parent, do you let your kid do this or make him stop? I would think, because typically, you know, I'm a little bit biased because when I was a really rebellious kid, the more my dad wanted me to stop doing something, the more I did it. And the more I did something, like typically all my bad behaviors that were stopped is because I realized later on that I was like just being shit, you know, and I realized based off of my own accord. I didn't stop doing things because my parents told me to stop doing things, if that makes sense. So I think this is probably, if I were to guess, this is probably the approach that's being like taken, where opinions can only be changed when you realize that you're wrong yourself, right? You can't have somebody else telling you that you're wrong or trying to educate you or trying to be patronizing or something. I think that typically coming to your own conclusions and realizing that you're being a little bit silly and a little bit like rash is probably the best idea, right? But like the thing is that, yeah, I mean, like obviously if I was, you know, somebody in this position, I don't know what I would do because I don't have any kids, you know. So, I mean, I'll probably tell them that Nazis are bad and Nazis are cringe and your opinions are cringe, right? But like that's probably, and probably like when we're driving, I'll probably be like, well, you know, my son, my daughter, or whatever the fuck, definitely not daughter. You know what? Hey, you know, you have some opinions. I disagree with them. I want to let you know that, but yeah, I don't want to patronize you or whatever. I don't fucking know. Okay, listen, Jesus.
British forced like tens of thousands of Africans into similar into like projects like colonial labor camps and stuff. And then in Kenya, there's also an example of this. A squatter system was used to promote British slavery in Africa. They used slave labor.
Isn't that right? Partly because he's lonely. If I were to speculate a little bit, I mean, it sounds like he uses the internet a lot, so he probably got trapped in like these circles. But like the thing is that somebody can just like I don't know. I don't know how much Nathan uses the internet. Okay, but yeah.
Just as much as the Nazis did,
Who knows?
if not more. The Nazis weren't using slave
No,
labor.
this is just straight up. This is a straight up lie. The British banned slavery at the start of the 19th century. They spent
I don't
massive
care if
amounts
they
of doing.
banned it. They still used it. You can say like.
To be fair to Destiny, I don't think it's this call. What do you mean by that?
They
They
spent a massive amount.
There's
They
still
spent
people that are gonna do it. They're
They-
like
they
go
spent a
search it up
massive
right
amount.
now. British slave labor during like World War II in Kenya. Search up the British squatter program in Kenya. How about you do that?
There is no comparison to the industrial scale level of slavery.
Okay,
Wait, is he actually like? Did he just chat GBT this? That's kind of what it feels like, no? Yeah. Also, TC Bob, can you give me a link back to Thunderdome? Thank you. Yeah, I want to rejoin the server.
so now we're
place
gonna say
in-
there's no
in-
comparison when
I-
I've
I-
already
I-
proved that there are examples of this. Yes, there is
The-
comparison.
the-
They're doing
the
the same
German-
exact
the
thing. The
Germans
only
used
difference
millions-
is that Jews are being targeted by the Nazis and black people are being targeted by British and French.
Nathan,
Pixie in the replies of H3 Productions. Oh, I'll take a look after a little bit, okay? I don't know how long we'll watch this, but we'll see.
Nathan,
Okay, we'll see.
they took millions of people, and it wasn't just Jews. They also took millions of Poles. They took millions of people all across Eastern Europe, and they.
I don't care who they took. The fact is that both of these people are taking people and using them for slave labor. I'm not saying this is right, but to say that the British are genociding Africans, but the Nazis are genociding Jews because they have to do some hard labor is. It's dumb, and it's an over. It's a.
So the Jews just had to do
oversimplification of history.
You're basically saying that slavery, forcing millions of Jewish men into slavery and stuff like that during World War II, and then working many of them to death, is just Jews being forced to do a bit of hard labor.
I mean, to an extent, yes. There was a racial biased picking of these people, sure, but to be fair. Every other country was doing this. I'm not saying it's right.
There's no comparison. There's no comparison to the.
Well, how is there no comparison? Tell me, how many Africans were worked to death by the British in Africa?
The Nazis killed.
Who's Foodshops? Nobody.
More than 10 million people in the Holocaust. If you consider not just the Jews who were killed, but also the millions of Poles who were killed, the millions of Soviet prisoners of war who were starved to death, the millions of people, like they had a plan, for example, to starve like 80 million people to death in the Slavic
find an
parts of
order for
Eastern
this?
Europe.
Can we get Hitler on the line to tell us where you put that?
Can we get Hitler on the line? What?
We actually can. So this is why I did my reading prior to this debate. So, for example, we've got Goebbels' diaries. Let's go to Goebbels' diaries. Okay. Hitler's remark on 19 March 1942, the Jews must get out of Europe. If need be, we must resort to the most brutal methods.
Okay. Hold on. Stop right there. I have something to say about that.
Just want to say, keep up the great work. You seem to have some pretty basics, so thank you. I appreciate it. Join my server.
Now, I think, honestly, the Jews had multiple
Can we get Hitler on the line? Bust out the Ouija board!
Opportunities to leave Germany before World War II happened. The Jewish lives, like the amount of Jews killed in the Holocaust, I partly blame that on the Allies, okay? Before the Holocaust was even considered and to be like a thing, like at all, by anyone is... Before then, the Jews had multiple warnings saying, hey, we don't want you in this country. How about you get out now? And then the Jews that still stayed after those warnings, they were... You were
shaken, not stirred.
It's always who is Foodshops, not how is Foodshops.
Okay, thank you so much, though, for the $2. What's your name? Bear Claws. Thank you. I appreciate that, buddy.
Familiar with the fact that they were expropriating Jewish property and doing this. They actually forced many Jews to pay basically an exit tax to leave. So how can you actually say, oh, they had multiple opportunities to leave? And also the Polish Jews never had any opportunity to leave. What about the Jews in North Africa, the Jews in France, all these Jewish groups across all of Europe who...
Don't worry, we'll listen to this a little bit more, okay? Don't worry, okay? And then we'll take a look at some Pixie comments on some H3 production thread, whatever.
They had no opportunity to leave. They were just living in countries that were invaded by Nazis and then were occupied by Nazis.
Okay, now here's why I blame it on the Allies. Because Great Britain and France, they had no reason to declare war on Germany. They declared war knowing the politicians, like Churchill, he declared war... No, not Churchill. The Prime Minister before Churchill, he's the one that declared war on Germany, I believe.
Because Nazi Germany invaded Poland.
Yep, and I can name two pacts that they had before World War II. They had two non-aggression treaties. 1921 was of Poland. No, 1925
France and Germany
was a non-aggression pact.
France and Britain were allied to the Poles. They told
non-aggression
Nazi Germany
pact, not an alliance.
Okay, Nazis obviously broke the non-aggression pact by invading Poland. Would you not agree?
Like they invaded Poland for their own reasoning. The British and the French, they weren't gaining anything out of that non-aggression pact. They were saying hey, we're not going to attack you. You don't attack us.
Nathan, let's be clear here. They signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with the Soviet Union. They carved up Eastern Europe into spheres of influence, and they actually did basically a co-joint invasion of Poland with the Soviet Union, and they killed millions of Polish people. And you made a post the other day. You said, "Oh, the Nazis were a shield against Bolshevism."
Yes, they were.
Europe.
Oh, okay.
Why?
No,
if that's the case, why, Nathan,
Let
if
me
it's the
explain
case,
that to
no,
you.
no, let me finish first.
Okay.
Nathan, if it's the case that they were a shield against Bolshevism,
Okay.
why did they do a co-joint invasion with the Soviet Union? They actually brought
Completely
they brought the Soviet border right up to
completely out
they
of
brought the Soviet
like
border right up to Nazi Germany.
self-interest. The Nazis only wanted that because it's like going to jail and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna fold your laundry and I'm gonna do all this stuff for you if you promise to protect me or not fight me in jail." That's what happened. Nazis knew they were smaller than the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union did want to expand further west into Europe. That's why the Nazis signed that non-aggression pact, because as long as they
But it
appease the
wasn't- this is the
Soviets,
thing.
they are going to be able to continue growing. And the Nazis did gain things out of that. They gained.
This is the crucial point. It wasn't a defensive pact. They actually did a joint invasion of Poland with the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union was in no position to fight against Nazi Germany during this time period, because there were the great purges by Stalin, where he basically purged the entire officer corps of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was a basket case during this time period. There was the Holodomor, there was mass famine in the Soviet Union, the entire officer corps were being purged. There was no genuine threat to Nazi Germany whatsoever. What Hitler did is he actually signed a pact with Stalin, and they decided to invade Poland together, destroy the Polish nation state, bring the Soviet border right up to the Nazi border. So how can you say, "Oh, this is a shield. This is a shield against the Bolshevist threat," when they literally invaded Poland together? And he actually helped. He actually gave the Soviets a free hand to invade the Baltic states and invade Finland. He helped the Soviets actually expand their power in Eastern Europe. It doesn't even make sense. If you're saying that this was all a defensive pact to try and forestall a Soviet invasion of the Nazis, mate, they were a basket case. They had purges. They had famine. And as part of this pact, they actually allowed the Soviets to invade Finland and to actually invade the Baltic states and invade Poland. They brought the Soviet border right up.
What do you think National Socialism means, real quick? Do you think National Socialism and communist and Soviet Socialism are the same thing?
Okay.
Just say yes or no.
No, I don't believe that they are. National Socialism is neo-Nazism.
Okay, so tell me why they would be allies together. Tell me why. Hold on. Before you answer this, I just want to make clear in Mein Kampf.
Is Nathan talking about like when Hitler and Stalin were like negotiating whether or not they wanted like a fucking alliance or not? Is that what he's talking about?
The thing you love to tell me about how much Hitler hated Jews. I think he honestly hated communists and socialists way more than Jewish people.
That's not true. And he believed that all the Jews were communists. He believed in the
first people persecuted by the Nazis were the communists, Bolsheviks, and the socialists of Germany, because they were also blamed for the economic downfall of Germany after World War I. Okay, the Jews were blamed for the signing of the Treaty of Versailles and then other political grievances that Germany had.
Hold on, let me just read this real quick. Hitler and Stalin teamed up on August 23rd, 1939, when their respective foreign ministers Joachim von Ribbentrop and Vyacheslav Molotov signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, also known as the German-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact. This agreement included a secret protocol that divided Eastern Europe into spheres of influence for Germany and the Soviet Union. The pact, despite being a non-aggression treaty, allowed Germany to invade Poland without Soviet intervention, and it also led to the Soviet Union annexing parts of Eastern Europe. The alliance was ultimately short-lived, with Germany invading the Soviet Union in 1941. Yeah, so it was mutually beneficial because it allowed both of them to take territory for themselves. Yeah, it was mutually beneficial, okay?
During and after World War I, and partly economic, mainly the banking system. But communists, socialists, and Marxists, and all those people, they were targeted because...
Secret pact, yeah, apparently that's what happened, yeah. A secret alliance.
They were a genuine threat to Germany. Germany wouldn't just randomly make like an actual military alliance, an ideological alliance with the Soviet Union when they are polar opposites.
But it happened. They had common interests. And as far as I'm concerned, opposing ideologies has never been one to stop such agreements, no? like opposing, yeah. Again, these opposing ideologies. Yeah, there's it has never been one to stop negotiations,
It's
right?
Then why did they do it then? Exactly, that's the point. Why did they do it then?
it was completely strategic to protect
Okay,
Germany
strategic to
against
bring-
the Soviet Union.
Okay, can you explain?
Germany
Can
hated
you
the
explain?
Soviet Union, but they were somewhat looking up to Stalin because
Do you think that they might make a negotiation even if they hate each other, right?
Germany, Adolf Hitler was somewhat looking up to Stalin because he somewhat admired Stalin. He admired Stalin's ability to perform politically, his political systems during the Soviet Union, during his time ruling the Soviet Union. He was inspired by Stalin somewhat, but still hated the USSR.
Okay, this is the point that I'm asking you. Why is it, if you're saying that this was a purely strategic pact, that this was only to defend Nazi Germany from the Soviet potentially invading them, why then would you destroy Poland, which was a buffer state between Nazi Germany and Soviet Union? Why would you destroy Poland in a joint invasion with the Soviets? Also, why would you give them a free hand in the Baltics? Why would you carve up Eastern Europe and give them a
He's talking about strategy and effective playmaking when the Nazis lost and Hitler killed himself. He talks about morality when Hitler betrayed everyone and fucked over his own people. More than that, right? Like, they made a negotiation, as far as I'm concerned, from what I read, or just read just now, I guess. It seems as though it was the Nazis that betrayed the negotiation, right? So it seems like the Soviets and the fucking Nazis were being chilling, okay, with their fucking agreement. But then it was the Nazis that broke it by invading into Russia. Yeah.
sphere of influence over massive
Very
parts
cool.
of Eastern Europe. Doesn't make
Good
sense,
job,
does
Hitler.
it?
Okay, so Nazis, number one, why did they invade? Poland, the claims they had
it
over
happen?
Poland were ethnic claims and geopolitical claims. They wanted
Just FYI, they had no reason to do this, right? Fuck, like what was even the reason for like invading the USSR at the time? Was it just hubris? It was literally just hubris. It has to be. It has to be just hubris.
the land that was across the
It has to.
river, near the top of Poland and Germany, and then they also
Danzig.
wanted land.
They wanted
within-
Danzig. I'm aware that they
Danzig.
wanted Danzig.
Okay, thank you. And they also wanted land, some of the land they lost after World War One. Now,
Yeah.
the reason, the
Hubris.
main thing that was kind of cracked in the Nazis' minds, saying, "Hey, we need to invade now," is the fact that the Polish government were giving a green light.
Personally, I can't wait for the Nathan versus Steven debate, okay? It's gonna be epic content, alright?
For Jewish Bolsheviks to go around killing ethnic Germans in Poland.
That's insane. That's
this
insane,
is
dude. That
this
is
is
not
true.
happening.
The
That was
Polish
not
government
true.
gave them a green light. Now,
That is not true at all.
That is true.
Poland was desperately trying to prevent a war.
they were.
No, yes. Poland was desperately trying to prevent a war.
Yes, for their own survival, because they don't want to be ruled.
Also, okay, who was the leader of Poland during this time period?
I don't know his name.
Pilsudski. So Pilsudski actually they had plans.
I mean, like, I have to say, yeah, Drew does know to some extent. Like, no, it does seem like Drew did his research. It's fine, right? Because Drew isn't looking up on Google like me, like in the time being, just to make sure that all the facts are right? So he has done his research.
In Poland, it was also an anti-Semitic regime. It wasn't a Nazi regime. It wasn't a mass.
Just got here. How's each side going? I think Drew's doing fine. Okay, I think Drew is doing fine. But to be fair, I mean, it's like you're debating a teenager, right? On like just very brash notions. Yeah.
Exterminationist regime, but Pilsudski and the Polish regime was an anti-Semitic regime, and they investigated plans to try and deport the entire.
You know how
Jewish
Jews gain their power?
I'm not finished, Nathan. Nathan, I'm not finished.
No,
Nathan,
hold on.
Nathan, I'm not finished. I'm not finished. I'm trying to explain to you.
I have a chance to say this real quick. According to you, about every single country in Europe was anti-Semitic. Does everyone just?
Drew's debating to win. That's fine. I don't think Drew's job here is to convince a teenager out of their rebellious Nazi phase, right?
literally everyone hate Jews? Because there's also a claim made that Britain also hated Jews. Well, Jews had influence in British government. So was it Britain hated Jews or Jews hated Britain? Like, and then now you're saying Poland
You're not.
hated
I'm
Jews.
trying.
And then
I'm
you're
not.
also like,
But you
there's
didn't
also
even
the
let me
fact
finish my
that the
point.
Soviet Union
I'm just
hated
proving a
Jews.
point.
The
I'm just
Jews
proving
did
a
the
point.
Holodomor.
I'm just proving a point. I'm just proving a point. I'm saying that the Polish state at this time, they actually had plans to try to deport all of the Polish Jews. And you're saying that the Polish state actually was working with the Judeo-Bolsheviks to kill ethnic Germans. That is not true. The Polish state was actually, it was institutionally
I'm not saying
anti-Semitic.
working
It
with
wasn't
them.
Nazi
They gave
level
them the green
anti-Semitic.
light. They don't like ethnic Germans. Ethnic Germans are persecuted wherever they go after World War One because they had to take responsibility and blame for literally everything that happened in World War
Calm
One.
down. Nathan, calm down. Calm down.
Oh.
I'm raising
What?
a point that disproves your point.
Oh,
You're
no.
saying that the Polish state,
We
you're
lost
saying the
someone.
Polish state was working with Jews to kill
I'm
ethnic
nothing
Germans.
working with.
Or gives a green light. You said they gave a green light. I'm
Yep.
saying to you, the Polish government at the time actually wanted to deport all the Jews of Poland. So this is not. It is
Is listening to a 14-year-old kid just because of who his dad is fun? Yeah, I'm parasocial.
not true that the Polish government was trying to whip up Jewish hatred against the Germans. That is not true whatsoever. The Polish state was not a Nazi state. It wasn't an exterminationist state, but they were still anti-Semitic. They still were against the Jews. They still wanted to try and encourage the mass deportation of Jews from Poland. And you're saying that no, the Polish government actually wanted to whip up the Jews against the ethnic Germans inside Poland, which is just crazy. That is
They
not true
wanted to
whatsoever.
get rid of both of them, actually. The Polish people, they had strong hatred, especially after World War One, when Germany was like complaining about Poland being formed where Germany had land. Germany was mad about that. And Germans that were unable to leave around that time because they didn't have any money that was valuable to leave Poland, they were discriminated against. Now, Poland did somewhat hate Jewish people. I don't believe that they were completely anti-Semitic, but they did somewhat hate Jewish people. What they did was give Jewish Bolsheviks a green light to attack Germans because they both hated.
Based on what? Give me the evidence for that. Give me the evidence for that.
Okay,
Point me to a document. Point me to a document. Point me to a source, because you can't actually explain to me why it is the case.
Is that I will actually bet money that he'll grow out of it. Most Nazis are, right? Most Nazis do. Why not list to him? Everyone else is making content on Nathan or sending him news while people on Twitter defend it. At least Foodshops isn't being weird and creepy like Hassan and Augie RFC fans. Yeah, sure. Again, like another thing is that there is like it's important to have a counter narrative as well against like people like Hassan and stuff like that. Because yeah, they're gonna take every chance that they get to like fucking do stupid shit, so might as well put my own take out there because it's fucking fair game at this point, no?
Case. The Polish government wanted to deport the Jews of Poland, but suddenly they actually were using the Jews against the Germans. That's not true.
Also, again, just listen, I'm still like startled. Again, thank you, Destiny, for the raid, okay? I really do appreciate that. Yeah. If he's still here, of course. If he's not here, then whatever. But yeah, thank you.
I don't have like all the citations and stuff on me now.
Exactly, because it's not true.
That's
it's not true.
no. I
It's not
have.
true.
I told you again. I'm doing a lot of like research right now. My notes are all unorganized. So
let's go to further documentation of the Holocaust, because you was asking me earlier. You asked me earlier, do you have any documentation that actually states that Hitler ordered it or that the Nazis did this? We can go to
Raiding into a Nathan debate, Lamau. I mean, at least it's better. Listen, not to go too hard, okay? But personally, okay, just personally saying a Nathan debate on the Holocaust is technically better than COVID research. Okay, shh, don't tell Destiny I said this. You're welcome.
For example, Himmler's writing to the SS head office, Gottlob Berger, 28 July 1942. Himmler said,
Advertise you stream 7 days a week. Yes, I stream 7 days a week. I stream every fucking day. Okay? I stream every fucking day. I stream at around 7 p.m. Okay? 7 p.m. Yeah, please like the stream at the very least, okay? Yes, I do need to show more often. Okay, I totally agree with that. Yes, like the stream. There are 570 people here watching right now, and there are only 67 likes. Okay, we need to bump that up. Okay, I want to see at least 200 likes by the time the night ends. Okay, I'm kidding. But yeah. Also, if you want to support the stream, okay, just remember. All right, you can always donate a super chat. All right, I cover mainly anti-fan content. Okay, by anti-fan content, I don't mean like anti-fan against Destiny. I mean like I cover anti-fans in an anti-fan way, right? Like I am anti-fan. Yes, I analyze anti-fans, okay? That's what I do. And I beef with them, okay? I'm in the front lines. What can I do? Yeah. That do be what I'm doing. Okay.
The occupied Eastern Territories will be Jew-free. The Führer has laid the implementation of this very difficult order on my soldiers. This is a documented piece of evidence in the German archives, found by the historian Richard J. Evans in the archives of the German state. So, what's your answer to that? This was as well between the end of July 1942 and the end of September 1942. This was during one of the worst periods of mass murder inside
1939
Poland.
Danzig massacres. This was around before. This was something that motivated Germany to invade Poland. The Danzig massacres were responsible for the murders of 58,000 German nationals in the Danzig corridor months leading up.
Sorry, say that again.
58,000 German nationals killed in the Danzig corridor